So, Ricky Gervais, an excellent comedian, an atheist comedian, had an interaction with Stephen Colbert, and this clip is pretty famous among atheist community, but it is a gem. It's a little older, so maybe not everyone has seen it, but I also want to give my commentary because there's some bizarre stuff that Colbert does. Also, Colbert, great comedian, but ever since he got his talk show, his late night show, I have not enjoyed any of his work. The show is bland at best. He was great on the Colbert Report.
Baby Karens are trying to turn me gay. Bam, bam. Stephen Colbert.
He was great on the Daily Show when he was doing actual satire, but now it's just his late show is just the peak of cringe. All he does is complain about Trump and talk about vaccines.
Oh, go get your vaccine.
The vaccine.
Let's talk about facts, baby. Let's talk about antibodies.
Are you going to get your vaccine? What are you waiting for?
If anyone thinks that was convincing to anyone, you need serious psychiatric care. And if you thought that was funny,
Really, nigga?
it's lost its bite, it's lost its satire. Anyway, let's get into the actual clip.
Here with Ricky Gervais. We were talking about this tweet before about that you liked this tweet that was talking about how you're going to go to hell.
Yeah.
That it should get a knighthood. Do you have any interest in a knighthood? Because a lot of British performers end up like getting a knighthood for service to the community or drama or something like that. Is that any interest to you?
Well, it doesn't. It's not like it was in the old days. If it meant I could go down the street on a horse with a sword killing people, then yes. But it's nothing. It doesn't. It's nothing now. You can't do
badge and stuff like that, and you get like a
badge. Give me a big sword and a horse, then I'll take it. You know what I mean?
Talking about hell before, about this tweet about you going to hell.
Yeah.
I know that you're an atheist, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. People have been debating.
It is great that so many people are able to openly say you're an atheist in modern society. Now, the Christians are going to sit there and think everyone is an atheist. Everyone in Hollywood, all the elites, they're all atheists. But the reality is most people are Christians and you're a weirdo if you're an atheist. It is great that a society has allowed atheists to openly say they're an atheist. And of course it's obnoxious whenever there's an atheist at a party or something just trying to debate everyone. Even though that I love debating people. It's there's a time and place for that. Right? But it's great that we're open enough to accept this. But it is true that the majority of society is still religious even if, Colbert's a liberal, but it's still very problematic. So we'll see.
That's the devil waiting for you in hell, by the way.
So that would be funny if an atheist said it to another atheist, but it's a religious person who literally believes there is an actual literal devil waiting in hell, actually, in reality, in truth, for Ricky Gervais when he said that. That is a true belief. Colbert's making a joke out of a thing that he's saying is a true belief that he holds. That is a true belief that he holds. So what is the joke from that perspective is super warped and twisted when if you don't believe in that, it's a funny joke, but it's not funny because Colbert actually believes that. It's creepy.
Do you want to debate the existence of
Sure.
God? Okay.
Yeah.
So, Ricky Gervais, why is there something instead of nothing?
That makes no sense
You
at all.
have to answer my question.
That's not the two choices.
No,
It's
but
not
the
ju-
choices I'm giving you, I'm the host.
Well, I don't...
You want to concede the debate? Why is there something instead of nothing?
Hold on.
This is always the go-to of a lot of like the low-level, like non-professional apologists. Everyone does this, but why is there something instead of nothing? First of all, Ricky's response is brilliant. It's not the option, and the response he's gonna go onto is also brilliant. But to add my 2 cents, it's such a dumb question. Why is there something instead of nothing? It is a good question to ask, but it's not a good question to ask as like a defeater of atheism. Because the same question is applied to God. Why is there a God instead of no God? A God is something. Why is there something instead of nothing? Well, we can go into how absolute nothingness, there must be something that doesn't work about it, because there clearly is something. But the question does not change. Whether you're a theist or an atheist, there's still a question. Why is there a thing that does anything instead of nothing? God doesn't just magically solve it. Oh, there's something because God decided. Okay, that just kicks the can down the road. Why is there a God, and why is he doing anything? It's the same question. But religious people just take it for granted. Oh, there's a God. Oh, no more questions to ask there. It just makes sense. You can just blame everything on God, but you can't question why a God is there, or how it exists, or what it's doing. It's just a catch-all answer. It's laziness, intellectual laziness.
Yes?
What do you mean, out of nothing? What do you...
Why is there something instead of why is there nothing? Why does the universe exist at all? Why is there something?
But
Why does God exist at all?
surely the big question is not why, but how. Well, why is irrelevant, isn't
Okay,
it?
fine. How is there something? Because you think of God as the prime mover. How is there anything
Well,
instead of nothing?
I don't. This is a ridiculous
Is there a
premise.
prime mover?
If
Is there a demiurge that started everything?
Well,
You can have a prime mover without it being a conscious thinking person or being.
outside science and nature, I don't believe so. Because the interesting thing is, this is the thing, right? So, I'm an agnostic atheist, technically.
And the thing is, even if there is a prime mover, we have no scientific evidence of it, so therefore you shouldn't believe it. It's not saying it's false, it's just saying you have no idea what you're talking about. We have no idea what's going on there. We don't know why anything exists. We don't know why the universe exists instead of nothing. Don't insert an answer that you don't know is true. It might be, but we need evidence, and we don't have evidence.
Agnostics means no one knows whether there's a God. So everyone's technically agnostic. We don't know.
That's true,
So
that's true.
an agnostic atheist is someone who doesn't
So Colbert admits he doesn't know, and yet he believes anyway. So this is an irrational position by definition.
know there's a God or not, as no one does.
So you're not convicted of your atheism?
Well,
You're
I am.
not sure.
No, I am, because atheism is only rejecting the claim that there is a God. Atheism isn't a belief system. Atheism. So this is atheism in a nutshell. You say there's a God. I say, can you prove that? You say no. I say I don't believe you then. So
this is an important debate going on in atheist communities, and religious people try and use it as a cudgel as well to try and force you into a position making a positive claim, because the religious people hate the burden of proof, because they just want to assume God without reason, because that's the only way you can conclude God. So, but the Ricky is right. Most people conceive of their lack of belief as they're not going around saying, I'm an atheist, I'm an atheist, I'm an atheist, I'm an atheist. because it's not actually a belief. It is a response to someone telling you there's a God. No one is an atheist until, I mean, technically you are an atheist when you're born by this definition, but by the definition of lacking belief, but no one thinks about it in those terms. No one even, if you never are introduced to the concept of a unicorn, you can't say, I'm an anti-unicornist. So people only reject the claim of God if someone comes to them and claims a God in the first place. So all of atheism, no matter if you take the belief that it means hard atheism, a belief that there is no God, versus simply a lack of belief in God, all of those positions are a response to someone claiming that there is a God. So that is a crucial difference. Atheism is always a response to a claim, no matter what. Even if it's hard atheism that claims that that other claim is false, or if it's a soft atheism that says we simply have no evidence to confirm the claim of God. So the other crucial difference between these points, because religious people always try to say, well, atheism is just faith in not a God. It's the same thing. It's just the other side of a coin. No, it's not. There's crucial differences, because atheism is not a belief system. There are no other beliefs that come with atheism. There is no required beliefs. There's no system. There's no dogma. There's no rules. There's no theology. It's just, you gave a claim, and either I don't believe that claim because I can't confirm it, or I can confirm that I've falsified your claim. That's it. The buck stops there. Those are very crucial differences. The fact that it's a response to the theist claim.
You believe in one God, I assume?
In three persons, but go ahead.
Okay, so you believe...
And I'm not sure what the crowd's reaction to is either Colbert's just glib manner, or if they're laughing at the ridiculousness of, I believe in three gods, but it's actually one God. Three persons and one God. It's stupid. I just want to add that. The whole Trinity thing is stupid. But again, I want to reiterate, most people, when they're talking about their atheism or lack of belief, are going to say just what Ricky said. It's not that I hate God. It's not that I've proved God is false. I simply don't believe you when you tell me there is a God. There's nothing else to it. I'm not sitting there thinking of ways that there is no God. It's all a response to you saying there is a God, and you can't provide evidence. And even Colbert is trying this tactic of, well, why don't you prove how it's possible that there's a universe without a God? And this admits the weakness of all theism. They hate the burden of proof. They hate providing any reason God exists. And their best reasoning always comes down to, well, you can't explain how the universe exists without a God. Well, guess what? You can't explain why there's a God either. So why can't you just be okay with, we don't know why the universe exists? Because they have to shift the burden of proof, and it reveals their fundamental weakness, that they have no evidence. And they know it, which is why they take this tact. So don't get annoyed by this. Actually, take this tactic as a compliment, that we've whittled them down so far that they're no longer even trying to provide evidence. They're so desperate now that they're trying to make us prove a negative. They now are trying to make us prove how the universe is possible without a God, as a way to prove that it needs a God. So...
Okay. So, but there are about 3,000 to choose from that have been, people who believe in...
I've done some reading, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So basically, you believe in... You deny one less God than I do. You don't believe in 2,999 gods, and I don't believe in just one more.
Right.
A very typical response, but a very profound one that I think escapes. It goes over the heads of every religious person. Because it baffles us atheists that you can see all these thousands and thousands of gods and say, yeah, clearly mythology, and yet it comes to this one other god that you were raised with, or that someone got their claws into you while you were having a bad time, manipulated you into converting into, and say, oh, that god is not mythology. The theology and the scriptures behind that one god is not mythological, but all the others are clearly mythological. It's, once you realize this position, there's almost no going back. It's like, how can you give it such an exception to this one area of mythology? You clearly understand how false religions can develop and spread, and people can be devoted to them, and yet you have this blind spot for this one God. We don't understand how this is possible, other than an indoctrination or taking advantage of people who are having a tough time in life and giving them, okay, well, you're desperate for any answer, so I'm going to give you an answer. So people are desperate, and they'll try anything. And oftentimes they get caught up in religious things because of that. Because they'll try anything, so this ridiculousness comes around, and they just commit to it. Because they'll commit to anything, because they're desperate. And if you're raised by it, you have this blind spot. So it's all about psychology. It's not about truth. It's just, and everyone says this. I just believe in one less God than you reject. Typical, but very profound. It is something that religious people really do not contend with. They just skip right over it.
Do you ever have a feeling of great gratitude for existence?
Of course.
Do you ever have?
I know. The chances are billions to one that I am on this planet as me and never will be again.
And I know I can't convince you that there is a God, nor do I really want to convince you there's a God, but
No.
I can only explain my experience, which is that I have a strong desire to direct that gratitude toward something or someone.
Of course.
And that thing is God.
We're mortal. We want to make sense of nature and science, and it's too unfathomable that everything in the universe was once crunched into something smaller than an atom.
But you.
So, yeah. This is another thing. A lot of apologists don't try and do this because it's clearly an appeal to emotion. Don't you want to direct your gratitude for existence towards something? That doesn't mean there's a God. That doesn't mean something put that gratitude in your heart. You can direct your gratitude toward your parents. You can direct your gratitude toward the earth. Clean up your neighborhood. Be nice to other people. Direct your gratitude outward to the actual world that you're grateful for, and not the hidden God that may or may not exist. That seems like a much more rational thing to do than to pray to a God that's just hidden. What is this urge to thank a thing that's just not even present when you could thank the things that are present? And this is so, Colbert is not wrong in a sense that you need to direct your gratitude towards something. And this is kind of what I consider to be spirituality. To connect with that source of reality, to connect with the deeper truths of the universe, to understand where we came from. Evolution can be deeply spiritual. To understand that the birds outside your window are your brothers. To understand how lucky you are that an ape brain led to the society that we have now. How we are just a part of the earth. and the earth is part of us. And that understanding, it's very kind of cliche and almost new agey, but if you really truly take it in, it gives you this larger sense of self, and not an inflated ego, but that the whole world is you, and you are the world, and it's a different sense, it's a different consciousness, and that's what I consider spirituality. And you can be grateful toward the earth. You don't have to make up a god. You can be grateful toward the laws of physics and the philosophy and logic that gives meaning to your life, that some of the other animals don't have the privilege to take part in, and some animals do to a lesser extent than us, but certainly we see that spark in a lot of our pets. So I think spirituality is deeply lacking in a lot of atheistic ways, but honestly very lacking in religious circles as well, because they claim exclusive dominion over spirituality, but they miss the actual point because they direct it toward a fictional character, but they think it's real. So you can have a spiritual relationship with a fictional character. Fiction is deeply spiritual. You can have a relationship with the truths of fiction, but as soon as you start to say that it's real, then you've missed the point of that fiction. You're not actually having a relationship with the truths that it gives. You're trying to make it into a real thing. And so you think, as long as I'm acknowledging that it's an actual real thing, you're basically giving up on actually pursuing the real relationship because you think you already have the answer. So you're missing the real answer because you're not searching anymore. And because it's so shallow and base level of just, if I just acknowledge that Jesus is true, that's spirituality? No, it's not. Mythology is much more meaningful as mythology.
You don't know that.
Well,
you're just believing Stephen
no,
Hawking, and that's a matter of faith in his abilities.
Yes.
You don't know it yourself. You're accepting that because someone told you.
Yeah, well, but science is constantly proved all the time. You see, if we take something like any fiction, any holy book, in any other fiction, and destroyed it, okay, in 1,000 years' time, that wouldn't come back just as it was. Whereas if we took every science book, right, and every fact, and destroyed them all, in 1,000 years, they'd all be back, because all the same tests would be the same result.
That's good. That's really good.
So this is basically Colbert essentially is admitting that he's lost the debate, at least this point. And this is Ricky's shining genius moment. And this is something all of us feel, but Ricky perfectly articulated. The perspective, it's so baffling to us atheists that, and this goes back to the one exception for the one God when all the others are false, is that all these strange quirks, like the three persons in one God, the particulars of the theology, if we forgot that somehow, or if there were people in the forest or people on another planet, they would never reproduce those particulars in a religion ever. If they were forgotten, if they were gone, or if there was an isolated people, these fundamental truths that religious people say, well, if you look at the trees, you'll realize the truth. If you're truly honest with yourself, you'll realize the truth of Jesus and blah, blah, blah. No, none of that is accessible from nature without specific particulars being passed down as traditions. They wouldn't come back naturally because they're not actual accessible truths in the universe like scientific truth that will be constantly proved over and over again, no matter what culture, no matter what language, no matter what planet you're from. These are constant truths. And Ricky just perfectly said it. And so science is not a faith. And, trusting the experts is not the same as trusting some holy book. One is testable, one is not. One has particular quirks that will never be reproduced if lost. The other has particulars that will always be reproduced because it's testable. And trusting those experts is not the same as trusting prophets, etc., etc. If prophets could actually produce results, if they could produce technologies, if they could produce actual specific predictions and not vague prophecies that could apply to anything, like sciences can, we can produce technology from this knowledge. People actually give value and can create from this knowledge. That's the difference. If prophets could actually do that, then we would trust them the same as scientists, but they can't. And religious people know almost all prophets of all religions, and even current prophets of the Christian religion, they all instinctually say, yeah, they're clearly frauds or off their rocker. But not my religion. My religion had real prophets.
That's really good.
I don't need faith in science. I don't need faith to know that probably if I jump out of a window, every other time someone jumps out, they smash to the ground because of this thing called gravity.
And then Satan would be raping you.
This is the part that really pissed me off. So Colbert says, because Ricky is an atheist, and if he jumps out a window and dies, because he's an atheist, he'll go to hell, and Satan will rape you. This would be funny if I, an atheist, was joking about Satan raping another atheist. Haha. Because it's a fiction, and we both understand it's a fiction, and it's an absurd fiction. It's funny because it's so bizarre that someone would believe that, and it's a funny image, and it's just joking around with the way things work in this fictional Christian theology. So, but Colbert literally believes that Satan will rape Ricky in hell if he dies because he's an atheist. So Colbert is laughing at what he believes is real, actual rape. If I believed that if I knew someone was going to get raped, and I joked with them about, if you do that, you're going to get raped, I would be a sicko. I would be a psychopath. But somehow, Colbert literally believes this. He believes in a hell, and he's joking around with what he believes is real, legitimate, impending rape and torture of Ricky, and he's laughing about it. This is sick. It's disgusting. It's a mental illness to have religion like this.
This is why I'm a good boy.
And Ricky takes it like a champ because he's not going to insult Colbert on his TV show. And Colbert, I'm sure he means well, but it's sick. Like, literally, I'm not saying that he is a wretched creature who wants ill will. He's sick. He's mentally ill. Ricky lightens the mood because he's a pro. And, there are Christians out there. Maybe Colbert, to be fair, is one who believes if you're truly a good person, then you won't be sent to hell. Which is perfectly fine, but that's not what the Bible says. That's not what actual typical Christian dogma says. The only way to heaven is through Jesus. But of course, a fair God would never forgive evil people for simply happening to have the correct belief about one subject, and damn good people who are actually living the values of this good God in reality, but damn them because they don't hold the correct opinion on this one particular thing that's like a hidden thing that most people on earth cannot agree on because there's no evidence for it, that's not a logical God. So this is the whole point about morality. If there is a God, then certain things are good and certain things are bad, regardless of his opinion on it. If it's a good God, then he's going to know the right things. We all have access to understanding and learning what would be good and what would be bad, objectively. And if there is a God, he's going to judge people based on whether they're able to figure that out or not. Not whether they're able to buy the dogma and just swallow the childhood indoctrination of Jesus. That's really shallow. This is why spirituality in most Christian and most religions around the world is dead. Because it's not about just accepting some factoid about some magic guy or some prophet. It's about, are you connected enough to the truths of reality to understand what is good and what is bad from the things that we all have access to? Not, oh, well, God graced you so you have faith, or Allah tricked you so you don't have faith, or you have hate in your heart. No, that's what the atheists have, an opportunity to have such a much stronger spirituality than any religion on earth. And we need to start stepping up.
Ricky, please come back and
I will.
debate something even more
Sure,
important.
sure.
David Brent, Life on the Road, is on Netflix February 10th. Ricky Gervais, everybody. We'll be right back with Christina Ricci.
All right, well, that was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed that little tidbit. It's a great clip, a classic clip. But it also, it shows the best of atheism, and it shows kind of not the absolute worst of theism, because there are some real nasty people out there and some real anti-scientific BS, but the worst of the kind of typical theism, giving theism at least good faith interpretation, it shows, and actually, I take it back, it shows the best of theism, which is still so bankrupt of adding any intellectual value to the conversation. It's literally just prove I'm wrong. And that's a fallacy. That's not how you prove you're right, by telling the other person to prove you wrong. Of course, there are many ways to prove Christianity wrong, but anyway, I digress. I could go on for hours, but I'll keep it simple. So, thank you guys, and good night. God bless.